I have literally scoured every single corner of Vardaran to find out which places are the most scenic, most aesthetic, and most unique potential location for your vampire castle in V Rising. Whether you're looking to roleplay or if you just want to build the vampire castle of your dreams, here are the best base location in every region in the entire game. Starting off with Farbane Woods. As you spawn in the game, if you choose to start in the Eastern Vampire Portal, you're gonna have an easy access to one of the most beautiful base locations in the entire game. It's located just south of the infested graveyard, and if you go off the road for a little bit, what you're gonna see is a large ancient bridge overlooking a waterfall. This is going to be your base entrance. The bridge itself has a unique design, one of the few base locations in the game that have this kind of look from what I can only assume is architecture from the time of Dracula. Going in, you've got lush greenery, a sizable space, and another bridge acting as a side entrance if you're coming in from the direction of the vampire portal. The base itself is surrounded by a cliff, which not only gives you extra privacy from trespassing vampires, but it also makes the whole area feel separated from the mainland. And then at the back, you've got your own pond, which I think is going to be perfect for a garden. If you feel like the building space is lacking, or if you're playing with a friend who wants to build close to you, then great news, because opposite of the pond, you're gonna see a staircase that leads you to another bridge that leads behind the waterfall. This claimable plot is also pretty large and has a direct entrance to the infested graveyard for easy grave dust farming, and it also overlooks the base area below it, which I think is really nice. Just across the map from here, if you walk north of the portal instead, you're gonna find another great base location that is perfect if you're looking to build something big or if you're playing as a duo. If you found the earlier base location a little bit too grand and you're looking for something more tranquil, then this space might be perfect for you. It's located in an elevated land with a large buildable area surrounded by a pond on each side. If you follow along the cliff, you're gonna see a bridge which leads to another similarly sized area where you or your friend can put an entirely new castle. Another base location that I really like in East Farbane Woods is located north of the portal near the bandit trapper camp where you defeat Keely the Frost Archer. You'll find this location just off the road where you'll be greeted by an incredibly cool bridge entrance with a stream that runs under it. The water also hugs the entire base location from the right, giving you access to fishing aside from just looking really beautiful in general. At the back, since you're at the edge of the map, you get this really nice view of a valley. And then there's also a side bridge that leads to another claimable plot again if you're playing with a friend. Not only is this base pretty, but it's also a very convenient base location because of its proximity to the Dunley Farmlands, Dawnbreak Village, the Bandit Stronghold, and Hallowed Mountains. If you're coming from Silverlight, the cave that brings you back to Farbane is also very close, so overall, this might be one of the prettiest bases that you can actually consider building on in a public server. The next base is a little bit different compared to the previous ones I've shown. It doesn't have a bridge, nor does it have any water. Just below the Gleaming Meadows, where you find Pelor the Fate Walker, there's a base location that is surrounded by massive rocks. These, in combination with the tall trees of Farbane, gives it a very secluded feel, and if you have an extra castle heart available, it has this side path with an amazing stone structure that leads to an elevated building plot which is perfect for a tower of some sorts. The location is also very convenient. It's not only close to Silverlight, but the Sulphur Quarry is located just below it. If you frequent the Cursed Forest, the cave there leads to the Sulphur Quarry as well, making this location very practical from early game to end game. The last base location that we have for Farbane is located deep within the ancient woods. South of the Sulphur Quarry, away from the road, past the local necromancer, you'll see the entrance of the base. On your right, you'll see a large waterfall crashing down into a stream. On your left, a marshland where trees would sometimes come alive. Since this base is also located at the edge of the map, it comes with a really great view of what's beyond the continent of Vardaran. Honestly, this is one of my personal favorites in the whole game. I see this place empty a lot of times, so not a lot of people know about it, and it's close to Silverlight, the caves from the Cursed Forest, and now the cave from Gloomrot as well, which makes it super convenient. Moving away from Farbane, we now enter civilization in the Dunley Farmlands. The Dunley Farmlands differ greatly from the untamed fauna of Farbane. Here you'll encounter trees and vegetation that are softer and a lot more welcoming. The first base that we're going to be looking at is a dual base setup deep in the forest of Dunley located west of the Quartz Square. When you arrive, you'll see a bridge that will lead to a staircase into the base. The trees and vegetation here gives it a more whimsical feel compared to the previous locations that we've explored. It's also got this river that the bridge earlier was going over, and then on the left you'll find another bridge that leads to a claimable plot of a similar size. This location is close to both Gloomrot and Silverlight, so it's perfect even if you're in the endgame. Just south of here, you'll find a second base location. Just above the Dunley lumber mill, there's a secluded location that I believe to be one of the coziest places in the entire game. First of all, there's two entrances. One is a staircase off the road, and the other is under the small rock formation. The base itself is sandwiched in between two giant rocks, and at the back is the edge of the map facing towards Silverlight. This area is very peaceful and quiet, and if we were able to build a log cabin in the game, I'd probably put it here. Next up is south of the horse track. This base has a similar layout to the base in Farbane with the ancient bridge, but it's got a stone bridge instead and it doesn't have a waterfall. It does, however, have a large pond in the back and another claimable area that is elevated where you can build some more cool stuff and also gives you a great view of the pond below. The fact that this is literally right behind the horse track means you get easy access to horses, which will allow you to roll for that 11-speed horse in no time. You're also really close to Mosswick Village, which is a great source of 100% blood prisoners. There's a bunch of cotton farms surrounding the area, and then there's also the iron mine and Dunley Monastery close by. There's also another great location pretty close to here. If you go east of the nearby portal, you'll see two huge claimable lands with a small river, another bridge, and a waterfall at the side. This place is perfect if you want to build around this area, but you're looking for a wider space instead of a narrow space. It also has a direct path to the vampire portal to the left just for convenience if you don't have a waygate yet. Now, if you're looking for a really big space, then this next base is pretty much two bases in one. In the center of the Dunley Farmlands, west of the farmer's market, there's a really large plot of land that can literally house anything you want to build. Not only that, but it's got this pond on the base itself, which flows into a waterfall, and another pond right below. On the right, there's a huge rock formation that blocks the view from the farmer's market to keep the place private, and then to the north you'll see another pond on the side of the road. This is one of the more popular building spots in the game, so if you see this one unclaimed in a public server, I'd suggest dropping a castle heart immediately. Not only is it big, it's also very atmospheric. The last base location that we're going to be looking at in the Dunley Farmlands is one of the most unique base locations in the entire game. Bordering the Cursed Forest, east of Gracefall Village where werewolves stalk the night, there's a base location that can be found on top of an actual mountain. After climbing not one, not two, not three, but 4 staircases, you'll reach a massive claimable space that will be able to fit the vampire lair of your dreams. To the north, you get a view of the Cursed Forest with its giant twisted trees, and to the east, you get a sneak peek of the blocked off area of the Hallowed Mountains. There's also a claimable area right below it in front of the werewolf village where I'm planning to build a vampire village of my own to rival Wilhelm, but for you can use it as maybe a workshop or a base location for clan members. So that's Dunley Farmlands, probably the region with the highest abundance of great base locations in the entire game. Before we move on to the Cursed Forest, I'd like to tackle the Hallowed Mountains first. There aren't really any interesting places to build a castle in the Hallowed Mountains. Aside from the snow and the unique environment, there's not a lot here that really inspires me to build a castle. However, if I was to build a castle here, I would choose the location to the left. It's a single entrance base overlooking the road and the edge of the map. It gives me the feeling of being able to build on top of the highest peak, and you'll be able to see other vampires riding around if they happen to pass this road. Aside from that, the base locations here are pretty mid, so let's go to the Cursed Forest. The Cursed Forest used to be a really good location to rush because of its proximity to endgame items. Nowadays, the Curse of the Forest makes it pretty hard to start a base here at low levels, or at least until you defeat the Old Wanderer. That being said, if you want to make a base in the Cursed Forest, you basically have 3 main options. The first one is at the center right beside the Spider Cave. Aside from the central location and being hidden by trees, this base doesn't really have a lot going for it, but if you want to create a vampire character that lives within the woods of the Cursed Forest, this might make a good roleplay base location. Aside from that, there's not a lot of good reason to base here unless you want to be neighbors with good old Styx the Sunderer. In my personal opinion, a better base location is located just north of here. To the left of the Swamp of Greed, you'll see a large and elevated plot of land that is found deep within the marshes. Probably one of the biggest claimable bases in the entire game. You'll never find yourself running out of space if you decide to drop a castle heart here. Not only that, but if you look at the view from the edge of the map, you get to see the unique stone structure found in the Cursed Forest. The third base location in the Cursed Forest is definitely the prettiest one. North of the ancient village and the vampire portal, you'll see a pretty large base with two of my most favorite features for base locations, a bridge entrance and a pond. Aside from the large size and the crescent shape, having these two features within the Cursed Forest with its fog and creepy trees makes for a very fitting base location for a vampire. Aside from that, there's also another claimable space to the right that's a little bit elevated, which gives you a view of the rest of the base location below it as well as the pond. Next up is the most recent area added into the game, Gloomrot. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a very huge fan of the new Gloomrot area in terms of base building. Everything here is just so polluted and dead. That being said, if you want to build on Gloomrot, here are a couple of locations that I found that might spark your creativity. The best thing about Gloomrot bases is that all of them feature wide staircases, which are pretty hard to find in other regions. This base location, located east of the Transcendum power plant, has not one but 3 grand staircases, while also being sandwiched by 2 large claimable lands with their own set of large stairs. If you get 1 or 2 of your friends to base up here with you, or if your server allows at least 3 castle hearts, then you'll be able to create a gigantic vampire castle with the natural courtyard in the middle. The next location is located northwest of Gloomrot to the left of the Transcendum Laboratories. The great thing about locations here in North Gloomrot is that there's a perpetual rain that covers the whole region and is the only place in the entire game where you don't have to deal with sunlight. This base location also offers this wide staircase placement, which I think looks really nice, and the land itself is a decent size. The edge of the map gives you a really great view of these rocks clouded in mist, and because of the rain, the whole area itself is given this dark, brooding atmosphere that is perfect for a dark, brooding vampire. If you would prefer a somewhat larger building space, the base just south of here gives you the same atmosphere, but with an additional elevated area. You don't get the double wide staircases though. The rest of the bases in both North and South Gloomrot is pretty similar to the bases I've showcased here, so I'm not gonna go over them too much. Let's move on and go to the final area in the game, Silverlight. Silverlight, in my opinion, is the most beautiful area in the game, not only with the trees and the vegetation that this area has, but also the architecture and overall ambiance of the region. The base location that we're going to be checking out is located north of the Brighthaven Cathedral, or west of the Silver Mine if you're coming in from the direction of the portal. Away from the road, deep in the forest of Silverlight, you'll come across this beautiful large pond. And to the side, you'll see a bridge, and if you walk across that bridge, you'll find yourself in the most scenic base location in the entire game. You've got that pond on the left, and to the right there's this stream of water where you can fish or just chill out with your vampire friends. If you follow the stream, it leads you to the corner of the base where a waterfall quietly flows. This base location literally has every single feature I want in a base. Not only does it have a bridge, but it's got a large pond, a stream, a waterfall, and it's also secluded. Looking at the area from bat form, you can see that this base is surrounded by giant rock formations that border Brighthaven and the Sacred Silver Mine. Combined with the overall atmosphere of Silverlight, this base location makes me feel like I've accidentally walked in a garden that's been tended to by Mother Nature herself. The buildable area is also pretty large. There's the area below and another area that's elevated. Plus, all of this can be acquired with 1 castle heart, while being right next to Brighthaven, the best farming location in the entire game. The only caveat here is that this area used to be a meta base location for PvP, so it might be hard to acquire this base if you're on a public server since it was really popular pre-Gloomrot. The second base in Silverlight is located on the opposite side of the map. South of Brighthaven, there is a base location that's not as pretty, but it definitely has that secluded feel and warm atmosphere. It's quite far from the road, so you're not easily spotted by patrols, and it's hidden behind a pond, which makes it feel decently hidden. Entering the base, you'll see that the claimable area has this unique shape where you can claim a small part of it below the elevated land. This is very unique because it's one of the few areas in the game where you can actually make a realistic looking basement, which I did since this is the base location I use in our private PvE server. There's also a really huge plot of land adjacent to this area, which makes it perfect for duos, and it's also really close to one of my most favorite locations in the entire game. If you go to the road just off to the left here before you go down to Brighthaven, you'll see a set of stairs that leads you to a very cool location that I urge you to check out. The final base location that we're going to be looking at can be found south of Emberleaf Grove. If you've ever wanted a base location that is 3 bases in one, then this area is for you. Entering the base, you walk across this bridge with a small waterfall on the side, and as you enter, you'll not only notice that this base is large in terms of building space, but it's also got 2 more elevated spaces on each side. This layout is one of a kind. I haven't found a similar looking base in the rest of the game, which makes this location incredibly valuable in a public server for people like me who like picking bases for aesthetic purposes. The other elevated area is also above the waterfall that we saw earlier, and if you climb up here, you'll see that you've actually got 2 waterfalls in one base. So, I'll leave you to let your creativity flow, create awesome bases, send me a link, and if you want to see what else I've learned in my almost 400 hours of V-Rising, check this video out on your screen right now. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!